Welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Tricia Brouk. Tricia is an international award-winning director. She works in theater, film, and television. In addition to her work in the entertainment industry, she applies her expertise to the art of public speaking. She's the executive producer of Speakers Who Dare, a TEDx producer. She's choreographed Black Box on ABC, The Affair on Showtime, Rescue Me on Fox, and John Turturro's Romance and Cigarettes, where she was awarded the Golden Thumb Award from Roger Ebert. Tricia, are you ready to drop into Virtual School Assembly?
I am so ready to drop into Virtual School Assembly. Tyler, thank you so much for having me. Hey everybody, this is The Art of the Big Talk. I am Tricia Brouk and I am so excited to be talking to you about the importance of storytelling. Today, we are going to cover why your voice matters and how it can change and even save a life. I'm a writer, director, and filmmaker, and I currently have 2 films that are being looked at by the Academy Awards for potential nomination. And these are important stories because one is about the Buddhist chaplain on Rikers Island who teaches meditation to the corrections officers. The other is called You're Gorgeous, I Love Your Shirt, an inside look at bullying and mental health. And this is such an important story because I depict a young girl, high school, who is suffering from learning disabilities and gets bullied in school. And it was so sad and so damaging to her that she attempted to take her life twice. However, she, with the help of her parents and her community, is thriving and is now speaking from stages and sharing her story so that she can have an impact and remind people that when things are tough, you can get through it. So your voice and telling your story is so, so important. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today. I'm the former executive producer of TEDx Lincoln Square. If you're not familiar with TED Talks, now is the perfect opportunity for you to go to TED.com, search for any kind of message and talk that you would like to learn about, and devour those ideas worth spreading. I'm also the former executive producer of Speakers Who Dare. I think putting people on stages who are saying what we are thinking is really, really important. And trust me, anything that you think is important needs to be talked about. You have an important message to share, and now is the time for you to get that message down on paper and begin to share it with the world. Because like I said at the beginning, you can change and even save someone's life who needs to hear your story. This is something that's very important that I want to share with you today. The difference between an idea and an issue. An idea is a thought, a concept, or a notion that we have. And once we form this thought, it can become an idea with gentle hands-on massaging, tending to and allowing the space for growth. An issue is usually an emotional or a personal problem. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes you feel eggy. Here are 3 topics that are framed as issues. Teachers in public schools don't get enough financial support. That's absolutely true. And it makes us feel like we can't do anything about it. Here's another issue. Pharmaceutical companies make it difficult for people with Parkinson's disease to get the proper meds in the US. And here's a third topic that is an issue. Discrimination has to end. These are all very important topics that need to be talked about, but they're framed in a way that make us feel like they're too big, they're overwhelming, we get paralyzed. If we reframe them as ideas, feel the difference. Teachers are the GPS of our children's future. Yes, now we have hope. We see possibility. And imagine if all scientists followed in the footsteps of Jonas Salk. He gave the polio vaccine to the people. That is hopeful. That makes us want to get on board with that idea. And finally, teaching children through early education that we are all the same, regardless of race, religion, or sexual orientation, may still not be enough to combat discrimination. Now we know we have work to do. Let's put them back to back. Idea versus issue. Teachers in public schools don't get enough financial support. Totally true. If we make that into an idea, teachers are the GPS of our children's future, we know that there's possibility. Pharmaceutical companies make it difficult for people with Parkinson's disease to get the proper meds they need in the US. It's definitely important to talk about this, but it's an issue. Imagine if all scientists followed in the footsteps of Jonas Salk. We're hoping, we're hopeful. And then finally, discrimination has to end. We can't argue with that, but we can't do anything about it. It seems too big. If we break it down, teaching children through early education that we're all the same regardless of race, religion, or sexual orientation may still not be enough to combat discrimination, which means we have to keep talking about it so that we can finally combat discrimination. This is where I want you to think about starting. You have a little extra time on your hands potentially, and you are potentially also in a place where you're going to begin telling your story and you're going to step into the role of writer and speaker. And that means start where you are. If you've never written anything, start there. If you've written 20 things, start there. Be exactly where you are in this very moment. However, you also need to make sure you fit it into your schedule. Schedule it into your calendar. And then determine what writing process works for you. If you like to have headphones on, listening to music while you're writing, go for it. If you like to be completely silent, go for it. If you like to sit outside on the back porch and have the birds chirping, go for it. And once you begin that writing process and that storytelling process, let go of all judgment. Everything you're putting onto that page is perfect because it's the first draft. You haven't started editing yet. So really allow your hearts to come forward. Allow those words to drop down onto that page because remember, you could potentially change and save a life by sharing your very important story. Let's talk about two parts of the writing process that I think are really important. There's a lot of parts, but I'm bringing up through line and context today within the structure of writing your big talk. Through line is a concise, articulate, and singular progression of your idea, which includes the critical elements unique to the idea. I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, crazy, too much. I can't deal with it. Yes, you can. It's 15 words or less, and it's super, super short, and it's the heartbeat of your talk. It's the trunk of the tree. This is what you want to come back to. And here are three very famous through line examples from the world of TED. More choices make us less happy. Easy, right? We know exactly what the talk is about. Vulnerability is something to be treasured, not hidden from. We totally get it. And with body language, you can fake it until you become it. Really important to understand what your through line is when you begin writing your big talk because you want to come back to it. If you begin going off on a tangent and writing a story about something, Cinderella, and then all of a sudden it becomes Snow White, you realize you got to come back to the glass slipper through line that you're talking about. Context is the other very important part of structure within writing. It's why your idea matters, why it matters to you, and why it matters to the world. And here is an example. Kristen Smedley, one of my first TEDx speakers, came to me and she said, I want to do a talk about rare eye disease. I started a foundation 16 years ago. I have 3 children, 2 were born blind. After talking with Kristen and getting deeper into her idea, and by asking her these 3 questions, asking her to answer these 3 questions, what we realized was this talk was not about rare eye disease. This talk was about how she learned to see the world differently through the eyes of her children. And this is how we got there. Why does this talk matter in general? Because she wants to create awareness. Why does it matter to Kristen personally? Because she has 2 blind children. And why does it matter to the world? Because when you learn to see the world differently through the eyes of other people, it creates compassion and empathy. That is why it's important to ask yourself these 3 questions when you are writing a big talk or a story. These are 3 things that I want you always to think about in terms of standing out as a speaker, as a storyteller, as a communicator. Credibility, relatability, and vulnerability. Why are you the credible expert to talk about this idea? Do you love collecting butterflies? Do you love cooking? Do you love baking? That makes you the credible expert to talk about that idea. Relatability is how you incorporate your point of view. Are you from New York? Are you from Toronto? Are you from Ghana? All the places that you are from and how you grow up is how you share your very important message. I used to always say, if we all talked about the world being round, it would be a very different story from each of our points of view. Now I get the privilege of saying, because this is an opportunity for connection of humanity, I get to say, if we all talked about the experience of COVID-19 and a global pandemic, which we are all experiencing, it would be very different told through my eyes versus Tyler's eyes. That's the unique point of view I'm talking about. And then there's vulnerability. Speak from your heart and make sure that you're ready to tell the story. If you have a personal story or a secret that you're thinking about sharing in your big talk, make very, very sure that you are clear that it's going to be okay, that you're not putting yourself in too much of a vulnerable position. You want to be very clear that vulnerability means speaking your truth and showing your heart without revealing something that could potentially put you in danger. And now I want you to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn if you know what LinkedIn is. And I love, love, love hearing from speakers and storytellers and young people who are making a difference in the world. It is my mission to make the world a better place by giving voice to everyone who has an important message. I have an 18-year-old who is going through the Big Talk Academy right now, and she's one of my heroes. She's one of my inspiring leaders. So I am so excited for you to reach out to me and to follow me so that I can continue to support you.
Fantastic. Now, Tricia, do you have a few minutes for questions?
I absolutely do.
Awesome. So I love this, just felt like a masterclass on how to be a good storyteller. And now we have the how-to, right? We can go back through your slides and answer those questions, and that's going to help us set up a big talk. Now, when we talk about kids, and whether it's, you know, as young as barely being able to read and write all the way up through college, we have storytellers at all those different levels. Why would a student want to share a story? I mean, we have the TEDx stage, but there are lots of other stages. Why do we need to share our stories?
Sharing story is how we connect. We started connecting over storytelling across the campfire. We still connect today, storytelling across the dinner table. When you say, "How was your day, honey? How was your day at school, honey?" That is storytelling. And when we understand that the power of sharing our personal experience with someone else connects us, that is why storytelling is so important. And that's why what you're doing right now, creating this virtual school assembly and allowing experts and thought leaders to interact and to tell their stories with you, it's so powerful.
Thank you. Now, there are different kinds of stories. As you mentioned, some of the different ways that we share stories. I was thinking, you know, I still tell my children's stories every night before I put them to bed. And I tell my 6-year-old stories, but I also do stories with my 14-year-old. And so that's an important part of just living life. But there are times where we want to write a story to get a big stage like you talk about with your programs. When students think about taking their story to a bigger audience, to a bigger stage, what might that open up for them? What are the opportunities that come with taking a message that you might just normally have in a dinner time conversation, but then reaching a bigger audience with that conversation?
When you commit to writing a talk that's going to be delivered in front of more than your parents, what that does is it puts you in a process of creating self-esteem, increased confidence. You actually teach yourself that you can begin something and finish something. And then when you take it to the next level and you deliver that talk, you share that story so that your gifts are given to a wider audience. Everyone in that audience then gets to tell the story you told from the stage. So there is a ripple effect that is forever, that will go on forever. So the opportunity for you to move from telling the story across the table at dinner to writing the story and increasing your self-esteem and your confidence, that is the kind of foundational building that stays with you long into being an adult. The next phase is college. Let's say you're in college and someone's asking you to share your story from the stage. Well, you know, you've already been able to do that because you've practiced that. So creating that foundation of confidence building, communication building, and the ripple effect of sharing that story, that's how you literally have impact you're unaware of having. And you can no matter what age you are, affect someone else's life. The young woman in the film that I made, You're Gorgeous, I Love Your Shirt, she's 14.
That's fantastic. Now, if kids are sharing their story, I know you work with a lot of professional speakers and a lot of people preparing for big stages. Have you seen that as they refine their talk and as they work on telling their stories, that they gain other things like expertise in an area or confidence or anything like that? What are some of the added benefits of really working on a speech?
When you step into the role of speaker, of narrator, of storyteller, you automatically become a thought leader in that area of expertise. You become known for that. And there's TED Youth. There's a TED Youth program. They support younger speakers as well. And it really is about confidence. When you move through the fear of speaking publicly and being alone on stage and having everyone's eyes on you, you can do anything. And it really sets you up to be able to go to meetings and speak articulately and confidently, give a toast at a graduation or at a wedding. It means you can get up in front of your classroom and have conscious conversation and dialogue and debate when you're in school. It sets you up to be able to do what we're required to do, which is communicate with one another. And we could go through life not communicating and miss out on making friends, miss out on meeting the people that we really need to meet in order to connect, create, innovate. So your communication skills are everything right now. And you have the opportunity in this time to, through this program, to really learn, devour, and apply as much as you can.
Awesome. Now, I want to dig into your life just a little bit here. I know that you have a background not just as a writer and as a director, but when you started out in the entertainment industry, you did a lot of choreography. And you were involved heavily in dance, which is another way of telling story, right? We express ourselves through dance. When did you transition, or how did you transition from that medium, from dance, to being more intentional in your own storytelling? Why did you decide to become a writer and be more intentional about that?
Tyler, I realized when I was dancing that my impact was limited to the amount of time I was on stage and the number of people in the theater. And I wanted to have greater impact in the world. I wanted to move people. I wanted to support and help and inspire people in bigger ways. And then I realized if I was on the other side of the table and choreographing or directing and producing other work, other dancers, other actors, that I could have a bigger reach. And then when I realized, I can make movies and those movies can live on forever, that's when I decided to start making film. And so I transitioned from knowing that I was having a lot of impact in the theater in that moment to desiring to have more impact, because when we show up intentionally in the world, we can have a difference and make a difference. And then I moved into writing, directing, making films, and now supporting other speakers, because like I said, when you take a stage and you speak, everyone in that audience is going to share that story, and everyone that they've shared it with is going to share that story, and it's just exponential.
Incredible. All right. Now, if kids want to get in touch with you, you already posted some of the ways that they can do that. As we're transitioning through this time where we're staying at home and are limited in our ability to share our stories, obviously we still have technology and we still have ways of communicating, but kids are now going into summer vacation. Do you have any advice for kids on how to use this extra time they have where they don't have the constraints of school, they have a little more freedom with how they spend their time? What can they do over the next few months to become better storytellers?
I would love to see everyone who is going to take me up on this challenge. I would love to see the stories that you are going to share. And that means you're going to film your experience of going through COVID-19 during the summer. You're going to share candidly what you're doing, how you're feeling, how you're growing from this, how you're being pushed by this. And I want you to create mini movies for me. And I want you to email me, Tricia at triciabrouk.com, and I'm going to give you support. this is an opportunity for you to get really creative and to inspire, to motivate, to teach other kids. Right now, we must come together and support one another. This is not easy. However, we are being given an opportunity to innovate, create, and to come out on the other side better. So I inspire all of you and I challenge all of you to create mini movies, mini documentaries of you telling me your story over the summer.
Awesome. What an incredible challenge. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We will put some of those details in the description on this video. And it's really been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Tyler.